The Maono PD200X is an XLR and USB dynamic cardioid microphone. It sports an all-metal construction, built-in DSP, and RGB lights. So if you like lights on your microphone, Maono has you covered. I'm going to assume that people do want RGB lights on their microphone because the PD200X is one of the most requested microphone reviews, maybe ever, on the audio hotline. Now, when I said it has an all-metal build quality, that is actually what Maono claims. However, it's basically just the enclosure of the microphone that is all-metal. All of the buttons and dials, as well as the shock mount, is in fact plastic. But aside from the mic and the shock mount, this does come with a USB-C to USB-C cable. However, there is a little USB-C to USB-A adapter that is attached to the cable. And this also does include a 5/8 to 3/8 inch microphone stand adapter. The built-in DSP this microphone offers is something you can enable, disable, and customize in the Maono Link software, which is compatible on both PC and Mac. In the Maono Link software, you will have some different EQ options. Currently, you are listening to me in flat mode. The other option is a high-pass filter mode, which is enabled right now. Additionally, there is a presence boost mode, and that is what you're listening to. And then there is a combination of the high-pass and presence boost mode, which is currently enabled. You will also have the option to turn on a limiter and compressor. Those EQ selections and the limiter and compressor are in the advanced mode, which the standard mode just has a few different tone options. Currently, you're listening to the natural mode. Now this is in original mode, and now we have deep mode, and now you are listening to legacy mode. In the software is where you can also choose what color you want on that RGB light. There are 9 options, one of which is kind of a rotation between colors. You can also decide on the brightness of the light, or if you just want to turn the RGB light off entirely. You can also rotate between these color options with the little light button that is on the back of the microphone. On the back of the microphone, next to that light switch, you have your XLR and USB-C port. And this does, in fact, have latency-free headphone monitoring through a 3.5mm connection. On the top of the PD200X is where you will find a mute button, as well as a volume dial. However, that dial acts as a button also, which switches in between headphone volume control, as well as microphone gain adjustment. And between those two modes, it actually has a light that corresponds with them. The green one is the microphone gain, and the blue is the headphone volume. Now, I feel like the FiFine K688 did get a lot of attention, and since the PD200X is so similar to it, I did want to compare these two in this video. So I'm just doing a quick back and forth. I'm sure you've noticed in the lower third that I've been switching in between them. The K688 at this point has been out for a little over a year, and the PD200X came out about 5 months after the K688. The Maono is capable of 24-bit at 48 kHz, whereas the FiFine is capped at 16-bit 48 kHz. Also, the Maono does have built-in DSP where you can control it from the app. The FiFine K688 doesn't have anything like that. The Maono usually goes anywhere from $70 to $80, and that's about the same price for the K688 also. And I've got to say, from an on-paper standpoint, the PD200X is more capable. Now, to me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, sound quality is absolutely the most important thing. One thing that I do like to do with my videos is listen to them a bunch, listen to the comparisons a bunch, and then give you my review opinion section. So I'll tell you a little bit more definitively how I feel in the opinion section of this video. Now, if you are considering buying the PD200X, one other microphone you might want to take a look at is the PD400X. This is essentially the roided out big brother to the PD200X. It has better build quality than the PD200X, as well as more customizability and physical options on the actual device. The PD400X is nearly twice the price of the 200X. I do have a full review of it if you want to go check it out and see if maybe it would be a better fit for you. But I just wanted to throw out one other option for you. The PD400X does go on sale quite often, so if you're patient, you might be able to get a good deal on it. Now, the FiFine and the PD400X are not the only microphones I'll compare this to. I will do some fast back-to-back comparisons in a little while, but first let's go ahead and jump into some more traditional tests for the PD200X. I'll boost the gain in post for this test, but right now I am 3 feet away from the microphone. Now I'm getting a little bit closer, about 2 feet away. Now I'm getting about 1 foot away, And now we're going to test the proximity of the PD200X. Now this next part is going to be a little bit loud. We are going to test some plosives. I am going to be leaving the windscreen on since it's an essential part of this microphone, but I will do a test with and without the windscreen here shortly. This is 6 inches away from the microphone. Peter Pan, Peter Parker, Picasso, Planters, Pickled Peanuts, Sizz. Now since this is a cardioid microphone, it's going to reject noise best directly behind the microphone. So right now I am typing on some really loud MX Cherry Blues, and here's how the Maono microphone rejects that. Now let's go ahead and do my favorite test, featuring the fabulous, the fantastic, the gorgeous Blue. Let's do a kitty purr test. Now during the first part of this video, I did switch back and forth between XLR and USB mode, and that is one thing that is really nice about the PD200X, is that you can record in both modes at the same time. Some microphones can't do that, like the new Røde PodMic USB, so that is a really nice feature. Currently, I'm going into my MacBook Pro, recording in Hindenburg, and then the XLR cable is going to the Zoom H6. But now I have the windscreen off, and here's how the microphone sounds without that windscreen on. Now the windscreen is back on, and the reason I'm doing this is to see if this windscreen dulls any frequencies or anything like that. Just another real quick back and forth. Here is no windscreen, and now here is the windscreen. Now just as a processing DSP test, I did just enable the limiter and compressor on the Maono PD200X. It is currently in flat mode, but now I'm just going to gradually turn the limiter down, give you an idea of how that sounds. Currently it's at 0 decibels. Now we are at negative 10 decibels on the limiter. Now we are at negative 20 decibels on the limiter. And now we are completely maxed out, negative 40 decibels on the limiter. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the compressor. Here is negative 10 decibels on the compressor. Here is negative 20 decibels on the compressor. Here is negative 30 decibels on the compressor. Now this is negative 50 decibels on the compressor. Now I did briefly do this earlier, but I'll just do it again really quick. I'm in flat mode right now. Now I'm in the high pass filter mode. Now I'm in the presence boost mode. And now I am in the presence boost and high pass filter mode. Now let's see if there are any pops or clicks when you enable the mute button. Currently I am unmuted, as you can tell, and now I'm unmuted, and now I am. Alright. Now one note with the mute button is it will not be working in XLR mode. That is exclusive to USB mode. Now I am curious if you needed to turn up your microphone gain or headphone volume and you need to enable a different mode, if this click will be audible in the microphone. So right now I'm in gain mode. Now I'm in volume mode to turn up my headphones. Now I'm back in microphone gain mode. Is this audible to you at all? Now just to test the effectiveness of the shock mount that comes with this microphone, this is me hitting the boom arm right now. Give the stand a little shake. There we go. Now I'm going to tap on the actual shock mount by the mount. Now on the shock mount by the elastics. And here's how it sounds when I hit the actual microphone. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a quick acoustic guitar and electric guitar test. Now I'm in a completely untreated, very reverberant room, and here's how the PD200X sounds in that situation. Also, I am going into an iPhone 15 Pro, just directly into the USB-C port. It seems to be working well. I'm just recording in the iRig Recorder app. But here's just a quick example of this microphone in a bad sounding room. Now to kick off this comparison, I'm putting the Maono PD200X up against the Røde PodMic USB. In this comparison, I will be 5 inches away from all microphones, And if there is any additional information I want you to know, I'll put it up on the screen. The Røde PodMic USB goes for about $200, whereas the Maono goes for about $80. But here's just a real quick back and forth between the Røde PodMic USB and the Maono PD200X. Now I have the $400 Shure SM7b going up against the Maono PD200X. I do have the SM7DB in the studio with me, but I figured this would be a little bit more fair. It still shouldn't be fair since the price difference is massive. But here's just a real quick comparison. I don't usually like including microphones with this different of a price tag. However, people tend to get a little bit mad when I don't put the SM7B up against a microphone that looks like an SM7B. Now here is yet another Shure microphone. This is the MV7, of course going up against the Maono PD200X. Now the MV7 still goes for about $250 versus $80 of course. Now one thing to mention with the PodMic USB as well as the Shure MV7 is the DSP capabilities you're getting with those microphones are far superior to the Maono. The Maono software is actually pretty solid, especially for software that comes with an $80 microphone. It actually kind of resembles the Shure Motive software that comes with the MV7, but personally I do think the MV7 is overpriced. But here's just a real quick back and forth between these two mics. Now here is the Behringer XM8500, and I wanted to do a setup that would essentially cost the same, if not less, than the Maono. So this is actually the M Audio Solo audio interface with the Behringer XM8500. This setup, including the XLR cable, would come in at about the same cost as the Maono. So I did just want to throw in some quick back-to-back handheld dynamic microphone comparisons, but here's the quick comparison between the XM8500 and the Maono PD200X. Now we have the Mackie EM89D going into the M Audio M-Track Solo up against the Maono. Now the Mackie does go on sale quite often for like $25 to $30. I think usually it sits around $50. So when this isn't on sale, this setup is a little bit more money than the Maono. So here's just a real quick back and forth between the Mackie EM89D versus the Maono. Now we have the very popular Shure SM58 going up against the Maono PD200X. The SM58 is currently going into the 3rd generation Scarlett Solo, and the Shure and Focusrite setup would be around $180 to $200 versus the $80 of the Maono. And now I have the SE V7 plugged into the Focusrite Solo. A lot of people love the V7 even more than they love the SM58, so I figured I'd include it since they are the same price. So like last time, the V7 plus the Focusrite is about $200 versus the Maono PD200X. Now this is where I usually go back and listen to all of the audio from this review a bunch, listen to this comparison a bunch, then I come back and tell you my opinion of the Maono. Blue and I have kind of been going through it recently, and he really wants me to hold him right now, and I cannot not hold him, so I'm just going to hold him while he wants me to. We recently got a new kitten, and he has been very jealous. So I got to give him as much love as I can when he wants it. You're probably going to see fur just flying everywhere this whole time. But the Maono PD200X, I always feel like I'm saying PD, is a really solid sounding microphone with a lot of great functionality for the price. Now, like I said previously, the FiFine microphone on paper is worse than the Maono, and I do think the Maono has the edge overall, but some of the reasons that the Maono had the edge, I don't think the gap is as big as it seems. DSP being one of the biggest reasons that there is a gap. The limiter is usable-ish. I'm using it right now, but I don't really think the compressor is usable. And for my voice, I personally didn't really like any of the EQ choices aside from just the flat one. But for different people, they could be really usable. But sound is so subjective. You might like the FiFine more. Whatever you like more, you should probably just go that way. Blue walked in and was excited to see me, and I literally forgot to do everything, including turning my lights on. Before this final section, I have been switching back and forth between USB and XLR again, but in the XLR chain, I actually have the Maono mic activator, preamp, mic booster, whatever you want to call it. I think this goes for like the same price as this microphone, so it's not very cost effective, but Maono sent it over, so I figured I'd plug it in. And honestly, you don't really need a mic booster with this microphone. With the USB connection in the Maono software, I'm currently set to 40 out of 100 with the gain. So even if you talk pretty quiet, you should be fine. Now, a couple other things when it comes to my opinion about the PD200X that I want to mention is I think this is a good option for creators, streamers, and podcasters. And that is obviously the targeted audience. This isn't really for musicians. In USB mode with the electric guitar, I wasn't even cranked that loud, and this thing sounded horrendous. I actually had quite a bit of headroom when I recorded that. So if you are thinking about using it for music, I would say use it as an XLR microphone. Now, one thing I do like about this microphone is if you take the windscreen off, you'll see the grill and you'll see the capsule within that grill, and that it is slightly recessed. This is similar to the SM7b and SM7DB. However, the distance between the end of the grill and the beginning of the capsule is much greater in those microphones. But with this microphone having the capsule a little bit further back in the grill, it really helps with plosives. And that's one thing the K688 isn't as good about. The capsule is not recessed pretty much whatsoever in that microphone, and that microphone is worse when it comes to plosives. So I did really like that they did that. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but this shock mount is essentially as permanent as the FiFine K688 shock mount, but you're not going to be able to really mount it in any other kind of shock mount. To summarize, if you are looking to get this microphone for content creation and streaming for $80, I think this packs a pretty good punch. So basically, the thing that it's advertised towards, it does a good job. Overall, if you're looking to start out with a USB microphone, I don't think this is a bad choice at all. And on the BB Star, the rating system that I use and that Bark from Obscure Mics uses, I'm going to give this a 7.5. And with this coming out and other releases coming out since I reviewed the K688, I'm going to move that microphone down to about a 7. So I do think this microphone is worth buying if you are in the market for a microphone like this. Thank you all for watching this review of the PD200X. I hope it helped you out and helped you decide if you want to get one of these, but most of all, hope you had fun. I have a lot more videos coming up, so if you like what you saw and heard, stay tuned. But speaking of people that have stuck around, thank you to all of the subscribers out there, and the biggest thank you to all of the Audio Hotline members. I have started doing a monthly podcast for members, and if that's something you'd be interested in, press join down below, and I will see all of you audio nerds next time.